Welcome to the worldwide headquarters and studios of All Duke Sports Talk, where all Duquesne sports fans can unabashedly and fully indulge in everything Duquesne University sports. So, without further ado, let's get to it. And let's go Dukes!
Hey, Dukes fans! Welcome back to the latest episode of All Dukes Sports Talk. It's the first one, I guess you could argue in a strange way, of the 25-26, or maybe it's the last one of the 24-25 school year. It's a summer show. We're recording on Sunday night, July 6th of 2025, and we don't know how many summer shows we're going to do, but we did promise we'd get at least one. And here's a gift to you guys. What we bring with this one show here, at least this summer, is Megan McConnell, whom I know so many of you are dying to hear from and get updates on. We've seen Megan on TV and Instagram a lot, and it's been quite a thrill, Meg, for us Duquesne fans to see one of our own out there killing it. So I can't thank you enough for joining us, and I know our viewership's going to go through the roof, probably the highest we've had, by getting you on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of us go way back with our Duquesne ties, and something that we've done with all of our guests, Megan, is kind of ask them what their Duquesne ties are and how they became a fan. We know, of course, that you played here for 5 seasons, but can you talk to us maybe briefly about how you first became interested in Duquesne? You're from Pittsburgh, so you've heard of it and you know how to pronounce it already. What a big advantage. But was it as simple as, oh, well, TJ played here, your aunt coached here, or did you meet Dan Burt first? How did that all happen? How did we get you here on the Bluff?
Honestly, it's actually a crazy story. So obviously my aunt coached at Duquesne and then she went to Pitt. So for a while I was like really set on going to Pitt because I wanted to play for my aunt and everything. And then she unfortunately got fired. And I knew I wanted to stay close to home. And I was going on other visits and I just like wasn't sold. I just wanted to stay close to home. I wanted my family to be able to watch me. And I think Duquesne like backed away a little bit because, I wanted to go to Pitt. And so then I actually reached out to Dan Burt.
Wow.
And yeah, so I actually reached out to him over Twitter. So I Twitter DM'd him and I was like, "Hi, coach. Like, I just wanted to let you know, like, I'm really interested in Duquesne. Like, is there any spots available?" And he brought me down on campus like a week later, and I don't think he was sold on me at first. He was not. But I knew I could win him over. But yeah, he offered me. And the next day I committed because I knew in my heart that I wanted to be in Pittsburgh and I just knew it felt right. And so I knew I was just like why hold on to the recruiting process when I know I want to go there. So yeah, I committed the next day and then the rest is history.
Here I was about to give Dan Burt all this credit, and turns out you just went to Dan and said, "I'll play." It's like that. I feel like it's Game 7 of the Women's Series in a league of their own, where he's like, well, if you're already dressed, I mean, you could, if you can play. I mean, how about Nick? Did you know that story at all?
No, I did not. I remember. I know the Bruins have a good tie with Duquesne in general. And Coach Eddie Benton was part of their program. He was an assistant for the women's team. So I thought that might have been part of the connection, and apparently that had nothing to do with it at
No,
all.
the Bruins did have a little bit to do with it. My AAU coaches like really advocated for me and they told Dan Burt, they were like, she really wants to go here. And he was like, give me one good reason why I should offer her. And so my AAU coaches did it, and so I thank them.
Can't wait till he sees this. So for our fans to understand, the AAU Bruins, basically, it's a club team, travel team, right? So I'm involved a lot in softball, so I kind of know how this works with, it's not just the school, there's travel. And if you're really serious, you play year round, basically. So the Bruins were your squad, Meg.
Yeah,
From what age?
fourth grade.
Wow. And you were with them basically all through high school.
Yeah, yeah. They've done so good by me, and just the organization is just wonderful, top to bottom. And my closest connections, like Coach Gina at the time, Gina DeRubo, Robert Cash, and then John Tate. I mean, I can't say enough good things about them. They are the reason I was at Duquesne. So big shout out to them.
Man, all the quotes that Coach Burt said about how thankful you stuck by Duquesne, it's really just being painted in such a new picture.
Yeah.
Can't wait till he sees this. But let's give Coach Burt a few flowers then, so he's not feeling too bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dan Burt was the right person for the job when your aunt departed to go to Pitt. And Coach Burt, ever since, has gotten such a thrill, like all of us, out of you guys beating Pitt actually pretty regularly, including while Susie was there. Coach Burt, can you tell us what he meant to you as a player and what he still means to you? Because I understand even now he's constantly in contact with you. I even reached out to Coach Burt to try to get you on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine playing for anybody else, and I think it just speaks volumes. I could have went anywhere my 5th year, and the relationship that me and Coach Burt have, I will forever like be indebted to him. I wanted to stay loyal to him because of what he has done right by me, and that like he's just believed in me since like I stepped foot on campus. And once my sophomore year came around, he really gave me the keys to the program. And, I just never looked back. And I feel like I am not where I am today. I wouldn't have had the career I had at Duquesne. I wouldn't have made it to the WNBA without him. And so I can't say enough good things. Like he is the biggest reason like I am in my where I'm at in my career, and it's far from over, but he deserves all the flowers for that because he brought out the best in me on and off the court. He always pushed me to be a better player and a better person. And over the years, like our relationship just was so strong. Like we trusted each other. And like I could always go to him, talk to him about anything. But most importantly, like he made me feel like he doesn't just care about you as a player. Like he cares about you as a person, and I think that's so rare to find in the college basketball industry right now because everything's about like the money and stuff like that. And for him, like he truly cares about his players like as people. And I think that's so important. Like he could get any recruit. I mean, Duquesne might not have the most money to offer, but if you want to play for a coach that's going to care about you and your well-being, you have to go to Duquesne. Like I had the best 5 years there, and I seriously have no regrets.
Wow, it's a great sell for the program. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I Megan, your success obviously at Duquesne is going to allow Coach Burt and the program to recruit more students right on your success. And then hopefully, like every great alumna, the team even goes on to bigger and better things and finds players who can do things and accomplish things at Duquesne that have never been accomplished, right? Even when you were there and you helped build that. And so the hope is that this snowballs, right?
Yeah,
Your
so
success
that
leads to more success.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing. I think looking back, I want to pass along to like younger players is it's not all about the bigger school. Like the bigger school may get you like the hype and the fame, but is it really going to set you up for like the most success? Like being at Duquesne, it may not have been a Power 4 school, but I was so successful there, and because I was able to take that into my professional career. Like a lot of people that get recruited, they're all always so focused on like the bigger names, and then you just never hear about them again. So I think that's one thing I wanted to make a point is like it doesn't like I could come from an A10 school, Duquesne. It may not be that big of a name, but if you make a name for yourself at that school, you're setting yourself up for success. And I think people get lost in the shuffle of that a lot of times.
Nick, you were
There's
going
a
to
lot of yeah, there's a lot of examples of players that have come from those Power 4 conferences and transferred to Duquesne and have said that they love it here and kind of maybe wish that they came here a little sooner. Uh,
Yeah.
and with what you were talking about, Coach Burt, I was a practice player on the women's basketball team back when I was in school, and he still checks in on me and makes sure that like we're doing well. So like it's true that he cares about every single person that's been a part of that team. and making sure they're set up for the future and
For
taken.
sure.
So yeah,
Yeah, you're right about that, Nick. Nick, I got to host the Dan Burt Coaches Show once or twice and do a couple color spots. And to this day, if I'm at the game, he's like, make sure you come to the post game meal. You know, like if I'm a public address announcer, I fill in. He's like, you and your daughters come eat. So I mean, it's definitely a family thing to him. It's personal. I want to make sure we get to these questions that I know fans of basketball are going to want to know about you, Meg, and updates on you because of the whirlwind the last calendar
Yeah.
year has been basically. Are you burnt out? Are you still hungry? Are you resting? Are you going on vacation? Because people might just not realize that you went from a full college basketball season, pre, regular, and then post for a couple rounds, right basically to college all-star competitions, and then gearing up for the WNBA, which you eventually made a training camp, then got cut right before the end of camp, and then ended up on the team anyway. And then you got hurt in your first game, and now you've been rehabbing. But during your rehab, you were going to the NBA Finals to watch your brother play. I mean, it had to just be an incredibly exhausting time, but I'm also imagining thrilling, exhilarating, all those things. Are you burnt out or are you hungry for more?
Oh, I'm definitely still hungry for more. I would say I was running off adrenaline. Like that a whole month, it was just a roller coaster, but I mean, it was once in a lifetime. For my brother, for me, it was everything you could have ever dreamed of. It was amazing. Unfortunately, when I was at Duquesne, I never went through a serious injury for 5 years. And then my first WNBA game, I get injured. So I like to believe that, everything happens for a reason. So I tried to look at it in that aspect. And then I got to see my brother, be so close to winning an NBA finals. It was like so surreal. But I feel like I haven't done enough to be tired. Like I'm still so early in my professional career that this was just a minor setback and I'm so ready for what's next.
Okay, well, let's talk about what's next. So, Nick, I'm going to take question 2 because this is going to dovetail into it, and I'll give you a question 3. But what is next? I mean, how's rehab been going? How's the leg? I don't want to specifically point out where you're hurt or what's hurt, whatever you're willing to tell us. We all saw the replay.
Yeah.
We all saw like the leg hyperextended. I mean, these are things you can't hide. That's what happened. I'm
Yeah.
assuming, it had something to do with the knee or below, but how's it going?
Yeah, so I mean, I fractured my lateral tibia plateau, which was like below my kneecap. Um, and when the doctor told me that, I just blacked out. I was like, there's no way. Like, but then in retrospect, I was like, okay, at least it's not my ACL. I'm not out a year. So I was 3 weeks on crutches. So I was crutching to my brother's games
Yeah.
and it was exhausting. That part was. But once I got off crutches and I was able to walk again, I felt more of a relief. And to be honest, I wasn't in any pain, which was really weird. Like after it happened, it hurt, but then from there on out, I was in no pain. So like it's kind of been like smooth sailing. Rehab's been going great. Um, I just started squatting. I start running this week.
Wow,
So I'll
that's
start
awesome.
running and then cutting and jumping and all that. So I should be like full go by like the end of July. Um, but I actually just signed a contract. I'm going to play in Australia
Oh,
in
congrats.
October. Yeah. So first time going overseas. I'm excited. In Australia, I couldn't pick a further place. So yeah, I'm excited. So I'm gonna go to Australia. That is from October to February, and then I'll get ready for training camp again.
So that would be because that's happening during the traditional winter basketball season. You could conceivably play that season, go right into the WNBA.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
do you have connections that what led you to Australia?
Honestly, I no, I don't have any connections. This is like my first go at all of this. You know, my biggest thing was I wanted my first place to be more Americanized, just because, I've never been out of the country like that before. So I wanted to feel comfortable. And Australia is actually a really good league overseas. So I feel pretty confident going into there, having a good season or a couple months there, and then getting back to the W.
All right. I mean, the next question kind of goes off that. What are your thoughts on the WNBA expansion? Are you excited that there's more opportunities, more teams closer to the Pittsburgh area too that are
For sure. Yeah, especially Cleveland and Philly, Detroit. I mean, yeah, I think it's great. Obviously the game is growing. I do think there needs to be more roster spots first, but I think this is a start. I'm really excited, especially because it's closer to home. So hopefully maybe I'll end up on one of those teams.
Yeah,
and I go
I
ahead.
don't know. I'm sorry. See, this is possibly wishful thinking, right? But the summer in Pittsburgh, you don't have too much use of PPG Paints Arena. The only competition in town
Right.
are the Pirates, but they're kind of different markets if you think about it. I mean, the Pirates baseball tends to skew a little bit older, right? Whereas basketball skews a little bit younger. In terms of other racial and ethnic and gender diversity, like baseball and basketball tend to attract slightly different audiences, right? So to me, it seems like Pittsburgh, I mean, maybe Cleveland's going to be a good test, right? Because
Yeah.
you have the Guardians and it's a similar sized city to Pittsburgh. So you got Major League Baseball already happening. I wonder what the support will be like when they get their WNBA team back. And if that works there, why not here?
I know. I would love. I think the city of Pittsburgh needs it. They need a WNBA team. That would be amazing.
It'd be super cool. Can I ask you this? You got literally a cup of coffee in the WNBA, but you played some preseason, you played training camp, and you got into that regular season game, which by the way was a huge thrill for me and my daughters to watch because
Oh, thank
we've been
you.
for 5 years. We watched you at Duquesne, and you were a superstar to them.
Thank you.
So it was awesome to see one of our own in the highest level. Is that as good as it appears from the outside? I mean, because for years when the WNBA was kind of new, the thought was, really it's the Turkish league, Australian league, Spanish league. These things
Yeah.
is the WNBA. I mean, was it head and shoulders different than Division One basketball, and how much so?
Yeah, it's like night and day. Um, I was a little like I wouldn't say culture shocked, but like when I got there at training camp, I think people were like laughing at me because I'm like, oh my goodness, like this stuff is so nice. Like there was a chef cooking you breakfast and lunch, and then you take home dinner. And I'm like, wow, I'm used to door dashing. So,
We're
or
cowards.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like the facilities. Now I know not every facility looks the same. Phoenix is a lot newer and they spent a lot of money on it. But and then at Duquesne we didn't charter flights. We flew commercial. So just like the chart like just like walking onto a plane like that, I think I don't know, I didn't take it for granted, that's for sure, because I didn't have that at Duquesne. So I was like, wow, this is like really nice. And like you can just tell like everything, just like the locker room and the training table, the just like the training rooms in general, like the access you have to all of these things, like if your body is sore, if your body hurts, like if there's something wrong, they have so much like more access to stuff like that to like help your body recover quicker. And I think that's like I was like, wow, that's like really cool. So yeah, I would say it was definitely night and day for me, for sure.
What it had to be an adjustment, Meg, not being one of, if not the best player on the floor. You come into
Yeah.
this league and not only are these girls big, they're fast, they can all shoot, right? I mean, that had to be incredible to witness up close.
I mean, yeah, it was insane. Actually, when I got to training camp, we were like going around like saying where we were from and stuff. And I remember I said I was from Duquesne, and the one girl said, "Oh, that's how you pronounce it." I'm like, yeah.
So you're helping people pronounce it across the whole country.
Right, I know.
Honestly,
So
it can't be understated.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it I don't know. Like it just
Who was the best player you came across?
I mean, there was like three superstars on Phoenix: Alyssa Thomas, Satu, and Kalia Copper. Kalia Copper's really good. And I actually really enjoyed her. She was probably one of my favorite people. Um, but I would say like the pace of everything is a lot different. Like it's very quick and very fast. So they throw a lot of things at you and like you have to be able to pick it up. And like I feel like in college it's more slowed down. Like you can walk through things. Like they don't do that there. Like it's very intense, high speed. Like and I would just say like I was not like the physicality, it was I didn't really see much of a difference. There definitely is, you know, bigger, faster, stronger girls in the league. Um, but I wouldn't say that was like the biggest thing that I picked out. I would definitely say like the pace of the game was different.
Did you pick up on that change of pace basically in training camp, like first
Yeah.
practices and drills? And
Yeah. So thankfully I got there like right after the draft. The draft was on Tuesday night. They called me right after. I flew to Phoenix Wednesday. Less than 12 hours. So I didn't even have time to like move out my stuff from my apartment. Like my mom had to do all that for me. So I actually got down to Phoenix a week early before training camp. So I like started to learn the offense a little bit before training camp started, which helped me a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, even once training camp started, like I was like, whoa, like this is the real deal. Like it was definitely it took me by surprise for sure. Like I was laying in bed every single night. Like there's like 50 plays. There was like so many things, like so many calls that I was just like when I tell you I swear I was like talking in my sleep. Like that's how much I was studying it because it was like it's so new to me and I didn't want to be the sore thumb like out there and be like, "Oh, this rookie doesn't know what she's doing."
And
So,
you're
you know, yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. I had to know. But yeah, I was that was a little stressful, but you know, I made it to the last cut and I was I mean, obviously I was disappointed because I felt like but I did walk away like with my head held high because I knew like I gave it everything I got. Like I had no regrets. So I was like it just wasn't my time. And then like I wasn't even home for 2 weeks and then I got re-signed. So I was like, okay, I must have did something right that they wanted to re-sign me. So that made me feel really good. That was a good pick me up for sure. And then, you know, I go down with an injury. So it was just like up and down a lot, but we're doing better now.
Well, what happens if you rehab successfully and you get a call in a month? I mean, could you return?
Yeah.
You technically you could return to the league. I know that the Mercury no
Yeah.
longer have your contract, but you're a free agent.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if I'm cleared by the end of July, like I could be somewhere for sure.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so when does pardon my ignorance on this because we never had a team here, but the WNBA season goes till when do the playoffs typically?
September.
Yeah,
Yeah. Playoffs start in I think August and it goes to like September if you make it far.
and Australia would be October for you.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm really looking forward to getting your trading card. It's going on my wall for me. You made it to the show. Nick, I'm going to take the next one and I'll give you the last question. So,
that's fine.
this is a question about what from your Duquesne days stands out the most. Like, what are your favorite memories, your favorite games, your favorite moments? And I know that I don't want to keep you here all night because we also want to get your take on the upcoming season for the Dukes that our fans want to hear that. But just to look back a little bit more at these last two questions, favorite games, favorite moments from your time at Duquesne.
Um Obviously my favorite moments is just like the friendships and the relationships I built the 5 years there. That was the hardest goodbye I ever had to do. Obviously those people will be in my life forever. The friendships and the coaches and everybody just really have a special place in my heart. The most special game, you know, the city game's always fun. But I would say this past year, in my 4 years at Duquesne, we never beat St. Joe's. And we actually started conference 0-3, so we didn't start too hot in conference. And our fourth game was at St. Joe's and they were predicted number 2 in the A10 and we went in there and we won on their home floor, and that was like a staple game for like my career. Like I was just so over the moon happy just because, we had a more like fresher, newer group. And so they didn't understand like the rivalry that I kind of had with St. Joe's. But my teammates we came in and we won on their home floor, and that was like a great win. And then I would say the start of the season when we beat Princeton, they were a tournament team. And so I would say those were my two favorite games that like have just like repeated like itself in my head. I don't know. I think it really showed a lot of character of what we were made of this year. And we just never gave up. And, it was probably my favorite group that I played with out of my 5 years here.
And that's really saying a lot considering all the success you guys had. But that
Yeah.
was a young team, and
Yeah.
it had to be tempting to go to a team that you thought might have been maybe a big national contender. I mean, your brother went that route when he was looking for big men to throw passes to
Hmm.
and make the tournament and get on a deep run, and it obviously helped him make the NBA. But you chose to stay at Duquesne, and Dan, Coach Burt says there were a number of offers, that you could have taken. I don't want to force you. You don't have to admit to whom they were, but that's correct, right? I mean, there were big four offers, and
Yeah.
you chose to stay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it just goes back to um like Coach Bird has done right by me, and there was no reason to leave something that's not broken. Like my happiness was at Duquesne and in Pittsburgh, and I wasn't going to risk leaving somewhere just for money. It wasn't worth it to me. I love the game too much that I didn't need any of that to like solidify anything. Basketball is what's always fueled me in life, and I'm going to do it the right way. And so, I may have not won an A10 championship. I may have not made it to the tournament, but at least I can go down saying that I did this the right way. And I think people will remember that, because I think just everyone gets lost in the NIL. And to me, it didn't mean shit to me, sorry, but it just didn't. And I'll hold my hat on that. And I think that's why Coach Burt appreciates me so much. And I hope I can help him make his program better from here on out because of that.
Well, that kind of dovetails into the next question then, Nick, right?
Yeah, and I do want to touch on one thing first. You mentioned how important it was for your family to be able to go to your games. How awesome was it that they basically had a permanent section in that stadium for all 5 years that you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just picked a spot and they just stuck with it. They never moved from that spot, but that's so funny. I mean, it was just such a joy like running out and like looking up and knowing like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my brother, Maddie, and then my parents and then like my grandparents for a little bit were able just to see me play in Pittsburgh. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more. It was a great feeling. And then obviously my dad ended up retiring last year. So he traveled to every road game. And
Wow.
so he did not miss a single game of my last year. So like if we had a game at like 12, like if it was like a day game, he would leave at 5 a.m. and he would drive to LaSalle or I don't even know. He drove to Rhode Island. Like
Wow.
it was just yeah, he put in a lot of dedication my last year. So I really appreciated that for sure.
And
Well, these
my
days with all the TV exposure that Timbo's getting, he could probably get a sponsored deal to like just
Oh yeah,
get
for
rid of
sure. Now
he is such.
most definitely.
Oh my gosh, he is such a Brookline guy. I'm from Brookline. And
That's funny.
my mother actually grew up with Susie on Dunster Street
Oh
in
yeah.
Brookline, and so he's such a typical South Hills Pittsburgh.
Yeah, for sure.
It was, I mean, we all were cracking up when he went on TV because the accent was thick and it was so fantastic. That was too good. By the way, it looks like
I
Nick's
ca-
daughter's dying to say hi to you because she's
Yeah.
a big fan.
Hi.
Maya, I've been trying to push her to be a basketball player for a long time, and this year in particular, your play has finally convinced her to start
Oh, I
practicing.
love that.
So
Yay.
just wanted to let her say hi.
Nice to meet you.
My kids are going to be so jealous, by the way. They can't believe that I'm interviewing Megan. They don't care about
Stop.
anything I do. Megan, when the men's team won their tournament game a
Mm-hmm.
year ago or so, right? I canceled
Yeah.
class and it was this big deal, and I was
Wait, yes.
yeah. My kids don't care. They bet that I'm interviewing you now. They can't wait to see the video link. They're just gonna
Oh, I love
shout
that.
out to Rhiannon and Josephine, two very good basketball and softball players.
Yes, hi.
Thank you for doing that. All right, Nick, you got the last scheduled question.
Yeah. Is there anything at Duquesne that you regretted? Anything at all? I mean, I'm gonna start off by saying I really don't think you have anything that. Okay. And I don't think you should have any regrets. You truly gave everything you had when you were out there. That was obvious to everybody. And I mean, even watching the last WNIT run, it was clear that you guys were giving everything. But is there anything that you look back on and wish anything went differently, or maybe recruiting anybody, anything like that?
Honestly, my answers may be a little, this is gonna throw you guys off a little bit, but I don't know if this is a little, if I'm allowed to say this, but it's okay.
You're a free
I
agent. You don't have to
actually,
answer any PR team. Do whatever you want.
so actually, my junior year, I had met with the AD and I basically fought for my team and I to get charter flights because I just simply thought it was not fair because the men always chartered everywhere and we did not get the same treatment. And so I tried to fight for that. Um, and I mean, a little bit changed. We got like 2 charter flights, but I think a lot of people from the outside don't see the toll that it takes of driving. We drove to our A10 tournament, which was in Virginia. Our men's team flew to New York for their A10 tournament. So it's just like the equality there was just, it did not sit right with me. So if I was gonna go out, like if I was gonna stay here my last year, I at least wanted to fight for something for my team because that's what we deserve. And I didn't get the full, we didn't get that full experience. I wish I could have gotten that experience for my teammates because they deserved it. And everything that we're doing, the boys were doing the same. I mean, it's just like we practiced just as much, we put in the work just as much. I just didn't think that was fair. And Coach Burt knows about all of this. So this isn't a secret. Um, so I think like my biggest regret is maybe not being more pushy when it came to that equality. Um, because I think women in sports, like that's just for an example, like it's women's sports is growing and we should not be getting treated less than. So I think that's maybe one thing that I would have a little bit of disappointment about, but it has nothing to do with Duquesne. It has nothing to do with the women's basketball program at all.
Yeah. And I think I was lucky enough to ride one chartered flight as a football player. But I remember in college when somebody stepped up as a private donor because the opponent we played in football flew us. It was part of the agreement because it was like a bye game. But I was at a small college once and the donor stepped up and booked us a private chartered flight. I'm wondering if for the men's team, it's because some donor came and said, I'm paying for the chartered flight, and maybe it didn't happen for the women, and that's maybe that's
Yeah,
where the problem is, big donors don't step up and say, hey, I'm going to pay for a chartered flight. They don't think, let's get the women's team that chartered flight. It seems to be a default
right.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and but this attention that is on women's basketball in the WNBA, and let's face it, the Caitlin Clark effect from the past 2 years, right? I mean, that has drawn so many eyeballs to this great game that a lot of us, are looking at the Johnny Come Latelys, like we've been big fans of this forever, but boy, it can't hurt, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what is your impression, by the way, of the WNBA stars like Caitlin Clark and how they're helping to shed this light? Because there are talking heads all over cable and internet who see how she's rated by fellow players, or and she's underrated, maybe she's overrated. Did you get any sense of that, or is it just, hey, whatever helps grow the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like whatever helps grow the game. I think people, I mean, there is, obviously going to be some jealousy involved because she is, I feel, the reason that women's sports exploded or women's basketball exploded, because of that run she had in the NCAA tournament. And I just think people need to give her her flowers, and as they should. But I haven't really gotten a feel, I wasn't a part of it that long to be able to sense it. And I didn't really bring it up or talk about it really. But obviously she's a great player. She's phenomenal. Um, but I think everyone wants that spotlight. Everyone wants that to be in the headlines and have that spotlight. Um, so I feel like some of it could be a jealousy thing. But I think she handles it with grace, Caitlin.
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's a competitor, so everybody wants
Yeah, yeah,
the best.
yeah.
I want to get your thoughts, by the way, Meg, before we let you go, and I hope that's okay that we're keeping you a little bit
No, you're fine.
longer than promised. But I want to talk to you about the upcoming Duquesne women's basketball season because the roster's taking shape, of course, and some of these women you may have actually helped to recruit. We're very excited as Duquesne super fans. Not just me, Nick Frost and Rudy Longarini, who couldn't be on this particular Zoom, but is one of the co-hosts of this show. We all are excited about Alexis Bordis. Coach Burt talks about this recruiting class as being the best recruiting class he's ever had at Duquesne. That's a quote from him from GoDuquesne.com. And Alexis Bordis is at the top of that. She's one of the more decorated high school players that Duquesne has had in quite a while. I guess, well, since you were a freshman. So what did you get to watch Alexis play? Did you get to be a part of recruiting her? Can you talk to us about what you know about her?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have known her because she was such a big name in high school. She had a great high school career. I'm pretty sure she broke like every record at her high school. But actually, when she was on her visit, I was a part of a lot of the dinners and like the lunch and breakfast and stuff, and just got to know like her and her family, and they were amazing. I mean, her mom and dad, wonderful. She comes from a great family. And, Alexis loves basketball. And like I see a lot of me in her coming from high school. And so I think the future is very bright. I actually stopped by Duquesne the other day and watched their practice. And it made me so upset because I wish I could just run out there and play with them. But also, it just made me so happy seeing how everyone is forming this new team when they lost a lot of leaders last year. And I think people are ready for that challenge this year. And I've talked to everyone on the roster, and they're super excited and they look great. I mean, I only saw it was like day 4 of like their practice. And it was good vibes. I was happy to see what I saw. It was looking bright.
And the big loss, of course, is going to be Journey Kyaku.
Yeah.
Can you see them replacing her? Is that someone? Could Alexis fill that role? Is it a different newcomer, or maybe it's someone else who's already on the roster?
I think Journey, obviously no one's gonna replace like what she brought to the table, which was like her speed and athleticism. But I think different people will buy in and just be able to contribute in different ways. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing their role. If you're gonna go in and your role is to be a distributor or to shoot the ball, I think that's something that Duquesne does a really good job of, is like expressing what their role is on the team. And yeah, I mean, so when it comes to like losing Journey, that does hurt a little bit, but I think that the players they brought in and the players who are returning, like Gabby, Grantham Medley, she sat out last year. She has put in a ton of work in the weight room and her conditioning and her shot. So she looks really good, and I'm really excited to see her play. And then, just the freshmen returning, Mac Blackford, Faith, Kelly, my cousin. So I'm just excited to see what they all bring. And I think they're a young group, so they're going to play really hard. And I think we set a really good expectation for them last year to follow with that.
Yeah, they're definitely still very young. Nick, there's some other names on this list of newcomers that you were excited about. A lot of size too.
Yeah, I heard Raven Washington and let's see, who's the other one? Bakar Sai from Senegal are both super athletic, tall players. Um, I haven't seen them play yet. How did they look?
They look good. I mean, that was something we lacked last year was size, so I wish we had them last year. No, but I mean, they looked great. They ran the floor great. Raven is super athletic. She surprised me for sure. She looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think they have what was her name? The Senegal?
Uh, Bakar Sai, there's not a
Yeah.
very yet, so I'm probably like,
Yeah. One of the girls surprised me. She's actually a really good shooter.
He's a guard,
And
6'4".
a
yeah.
guard at 6'4".
Yeah, so she
Yeah.
could stretch the floor for them. So yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff going on over there.
Shout out to RJ Bell, recruiting coordinator, by the way. So
Yeah.
I mean, Dan Burt, obviously, he's part of that as well. But this is obviously a team effort, not just on the court, but off the court. Yeah, very excited. Are you gonna try? I mean, I guess it all depends, doesn't it, on your Australia schedule? But like, what are the odds we get you back
I
into the game
know. I
before your
know.
number's retired, or do we know when that's going to happen yet?
Yeah, I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Coach Bird about that. I'm not sure when that will happen. I really am hoping I can surprise them for one game, but we'll see how my schedule falls. But I'm fingers crossed that I'll be able to make a game.
Well, I know we got a bunch of other topics with men's basketball and football and some other things we want to get to, but I want to let Megan get some rest because it's been quite a year, and she's joining us at I think you're in Pittsburgh right now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's late for you too. We're recording this late on Sunday night, July 6th. So when this airs or drops, it'll be a few days later. Megan, just fantastic to see that your recovery is going well, that
Thank
you
you.
still have the burning desire to get back out there and play, if not for the WNBA this year, that you signed a contract to play professionally overseas in Australia. And we just can't wait to see you on the floor again.
Thank you. Thanks for all the support, guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
Shout out to Timbo and everyone in the McConnell family. By the way, can you clarify for the Duquesne fans who always see the McConnell jersey guy looking like Jack Nicholson in the front row? Is that Maddie?
No,
Is that guy?
he's a super fan.
Okay, because I just assumed he was a family member,
No,
and I.
No, the
everyone thought
family
that was my dad.
Oh, really? He
Yeah.
doesn't look that old. Not that your dad looks
No,
that old,
yeah,
but yeah.
he's a season ticket holder and he sits courtside at every game. He
Okay.
has every color jersey you could think of. I mean, I don't even know where he gets them from. Like some of them are like tie-dye number
Yeah.
fours. I was like, okay. Um,
He's our Jack Nicholson.
yeah, he's hilarious. He shows up in sunglasses, red jeans. He's got the
He's
whole thing
not, re-
going on.
not related.
Not related. No,
That's
no, no.
fantastic. I thought he was a cousin, another Hooper in the McConnell family, but
No, no.
yeah, good stuff. Okay, well, thanks for shedding a light on that for us. That's the kind of breaking
Yeah,
news we
I'm
bring
glad I could clear that up.
on All Duke Sports Talk. Okay, Megan, keep racking up the Instagram followers, keep racking up all the attention. It's been so cool watching a Pittsburgher and a Duke collect all these laurels and attention. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was really fun. So there's a treat, all Duke Sports Talk fans. Megan McConnell, our first guest of what we'll call the 25-26 season. And it's a shame that Rudy, who's such a big fan, isn't on this particular call, but he's going to get this show up for us. I want to, in the time that we have left, so the show doesn't run too long, talk about the men's program, of course, and a lot of things to like about the men's program coming into 25-26 as well. There's a preview on the GoDuquesne.com website. So shout out to the sports information guys at Duquesne. Those guys, of course, do great work. And I want to call them all out because we can't do our job without them on this show. Jim Duzick, who is the main contact for men's basketball. Jacob Davey is the main contact for football. And then Trey Staunch is the main contact for women's basketball. Ben Parental was I think, right now their most houred intern as well, one of my students. But yeah, those guys, they make this happen. So we use a lot of information that the sports info guys put out. and they put together a nice preview for the roster and how it's shaping up for 25-26. So Duquesne is bringing back a pair of starters. Cam Crawford is going to be a redshirt senior guard, and Jacob Natchez is going to be a junior forward for the team. Trey Dinkins got a year of eligibility, and he was applying for it, but he's transferring. So Trey Dinkins will not return. One guy who will return, who I guess wasn't on here as a returning starter, is Max Edwards. So Max Edwards will return. He had entered the portal. He is not leaving Duquesne, though, ultimately. So he'll be back for a redshirt senior year. And let's not forget that in a way, you kind of get a fourth starter back because Jake DeMichael got a medical redshirt last year and missed basically the whole season. So I'm excited about those four guys in particular. Chabi Barre did, however, transfer. And I'm sure maybe you can help me out, Nick, some other guys that have left the team transferring. I know Chabi went to Akron. I know
Eli Wilborn is a Duke and for James Madison, which is just really confusing. But the bigs got supplemented with John Hughley, a former Pitt Panther, who's coming in to join the team.
6'11", 270.
Yeah, true center. There's no question about it. So that's supposed to be a big get. And we still have Dave Dixon. Terrence Ginyard's another transfer. He's supposed to be a point guard option, along with Brandon Hall and Alex Williams, who both redshirted last year. Both are supposed to contribute. Outside of that, we've got incoming freshman Dom Akins, 5'10" guard, who has a lot of Fats Russell comparison for A10 fans back in the Rhode Island days. And then Arness Lawson, 6'2" guard, combo guard, a lot of explosive drive to his game, great shot. He's another Ohio guy. So hopefully getting good minutes from them. There's a few other transfers I'm not as familiar with. Jimmy Williams is one of those guys. I'm looking forward to getting to know him. And then Frederick Jellum and Stefan Van Bussel are both international guys that have come in and joined the team. I think Van Bussel might have started out in St. Louis, if I'm remembering correctly.
College of Charleston, I believe.
Okay. All right. And then we have some of the former walk-ons coming back as well. Seamus McDermott, Ethan Onish, and Lucas Prola. We were a little worried that they wouldn't be able to stay on the team because of the new scholarships rules that got put in place, but glad to see that they're still part of the team. They've been integral parts. I mean, just being a part of the team for that championship run as those scout players kind of role. It's still nice to keep them a part of the family. So
yeah, really cool. And I'm glad you mentioned Dave Dixon because, he was the first guy off the bench and often played the most minutes, in the paint for us. So in a way, he's kind of a returning starter as well, even though he didn't get as many GSs in the box score. But yeah, Dave Dixon, who was a big part of that championship, is still around. One guy I can't believe I forgot to mention that did leave as well is Kareem Rozier, right? And we talked about that a few months ago, but Kareem will not be back. So, openings at point guard. I'm not quite sure yet who's going to take the ball down the court for the Dukes. I'm curious, Nick, if you think that's something Jake DeMichael could do. That's not really his game. But I think people always underestimate DeMichael. He's almost like the TJ McConnell of this era of the Dukes, where he's a guy that gets often overlooked, but every time he's on the floor, he produces. You think that's something DeMichael would possibly do, or is that not? Is he more of a shooter?
I think he's more of a two guard, but I mean, Zach brought him up as an option at point guard early on last year.
Zach Weiss, we're talking about,
yeah.
Pittsburgh Sports Now. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's possible. He definitely doesn't have the same playing style exactly as TJ, where he's not going to get 4 steals a game or anything close to that. But yeah, I think he's not going to be a turnover threat by any means if he has the ball in his hands for too long. It's just going to be a matter of kind of seeing where everybody meshes. I mean, Max Edwards coming off the bench last year, especially towards the end, really worked well. But obviously, he'd like to be a starter if he can be. So it's going to be kind of mixing and mashing and seeing, and hopefully it starts off a little better than it did last year. But the important part will be having that right recipe for the end of the year run. We'll see. A lot of talent is not a major problem. Not having enough talent is. I'm not worried about it on that end.
And one guy I think we didn't mention was another international player, Lazar Milosevic from Serbia, is a 6'9" freshman forward, 240 pounds, big body. So excited to see what he can bring. I wanted to, we mentioned TJ McConnell briefly, and because the NBA finals recently ended, we got to mention TJ McConnell and the work he did for the Pacers this year, especially in the playoffs and in the finals. If Halliburton stays healthy in game 7 and the Pacers maybe go on and win that game, there was talk TJ McConnell was like NBA Finals MVP. That was the kind of impact he was having on the floor. It made watching him play made me think about those couple of years he played for the Dukes, and just I've seen this before in person, on courts in Pittsburgh. It made me sad that he's not really considered like an all-time great Duke, right? Because he's had this long NBA career, a la Mike James, who eventually had his number retired because really more of what he did as a pro than what he did in college. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, Nick, on, can is TJ McConnell one of ours? Like, can we claim him? Because he finished at Arizona. He didn't graduate from Duquesne as far as I know, but like,
No, he graduated from Arizona, but you're asking a person who's a huge fan of basically the entire McConnell family. So yeah, I'm always going to consider him a Duquesne Duke. In fact, when I had my old podcast, the D's on Fire, in the background, TJ was one of the players that I had in there just because my freshman year was his sophomore year, so his last year at Duquesne. And I mean, as a freshman, he was top 5 in the entire NCAA in steals, and I think he was one of the top. I think he was 4th out of freshmen in assist to turnover ratio in the country. I mean, he brought that same style of play that he was known for, and he did in the NBA the second he stepped on campus. And honestly, his transferring is probably a major reason why Ron Heverhart didn't keep his job beyond that year. So I do think he was still an instrumental part of Duquesne history with how well he played as a freshman. Obviously, if he had stayed all 4 years, like his sister ended up doing, I think his number would be retired, honestly. And I mean, he got his number retired in Arizona, which even speaks more to the fact that if he had stayed here, that probably would have been a thing here. He's an all-time great player. We should be happy to accept him as a Duquesne player. And I did see social media, some Duquesne accounts finally kind of talking about that from the Duquesne side of things, and I think that was a good move.
yeah, that's exactly why I'm kind of thinking about this from a PR perspective, right? Because that's in my wheelhouse. And when you finish your career as a Duke and you go on and do things, whether I'm talking about athletics or academics, we consider you a Duquesne person. And if you do something, the official Duquesne accounts will retweet it. So like what you're saying is there wasn't much attention paid to TJ's run in the NBA Finals, but his sister's appearance in the WNBA and then her being at the NBA Finals with him kind of helped bring him back into the fold. And like you said, the PR folks at Duquesne, the Office of Marketing and Communications, were enjoying saying we love seeing 2 former Dukes having all this attention. And I think that really helped actually kind of bring him back into the fold. I'd be curious if the athletics department will acknowledge him, kind of like you draw the comparison between like Barry Bonds going from the Pirates to the San Francisco Giants, right? And then he eventually makes the Pirates Hall of Fame, even though they went on to greater things elsewhere. It's funny that, I mean, we both would sit here and say Day-Day Grant's an all-time great Duke, but he played just as many seasons at Duquesne as TJ McConnell did. They just happened at the end of his career instead of at the beginning, and so it's interesting debate. I guess time will tell. I want to also get briefly to some football news. Pretty decent signing for the Dukes. There's a former San Diego State defensive tackle and defensive end that apparently just committed to Duquesne. And as far as I understand, he'll be available this fall. He'll have 4 seasons of eligibility remaining. This San Diego State player, 6'5", 280 pounds. He's a native of Stockton, California. Ryan Gaea, if I'm saying his name right, Gaea. That's a really big commitment. I'm excited to see what this guy will bring. That's some big size. And that's an FBS school. That San Diego State is transferring to us at Duquesne. A lot of credit goes to Garrett Mack, who's an assistant coach at Duquesne on the defensive line. He's a former Division II head coach most recently, and apparently he was a big deal and had a big role in recruiting this Gaya from California. So that's pretty cool. Reminder that the Duquesne football team has its season opener this year at Akron, at Acrisure Stadium. Still doesn't roll off the tongue. But at Acrisure, the Duquesne Football Dukes will open up pit season and their own August 30th. That's a Saturday at noon. So if you're going, we hope to see you. There's going to be a nice turnout, I think, for that game. I know a lot of former players like myself will be running some tailgates. Our friend Alex Penarmius, who's been the voice of Duquesne women's basketball for years, he's going to be a part of that tailgate as well, and he'll get to be broadcasting that game too, which I know he's pretty pumped about. I want to also, we should talk about something you mentioned earlier, Nick, about this roster thing, right? Where due to a ruling in the courts and a settlement in the House of Representatives, there's been this change, and there's ongoing changes all through college athletics. And one of the more recent ones is that there's no longer scholarship limitations. It's more of a roster limitation thing. And Nick, you hinted to this earlier, which is why you were not sure if guys like Lucas Prola and what have you were still going to be on the team. Can you speak more to this and how it might affect Duquesne athletics?
Yeah, so basically there's in NCAA kind of Division I as a whole, there's not really as much of a place for walk-ons anymore, because you want to have as many great players as you can, and the players are obviously going to want full scholarships. So I think this year might be a transition year where we got away with keeping the guys in, but basically every walk-on player on any Division I team had to enter into the transfer portal, which contributed to them like having 3 times as many players in the transfer portal at the end of the season than ever before. So that's going to be a new norm probably, which is kind of scary in and of itself. And it's probably going to affect D2 and D3 a lot too, where these walk-on players are now going to take those spots. And then there's going to be, a natural progression from there. A lot of talented players are going to be trying to find roster spots and minutes. And it might, in a weird way, help schools like Duquesne, where you have super talented players that go to the big name school, realize they aren't going to get any minutes, and then they go to schools that they can find minutes at and find a new home. So, Meg mentioned it from the women's basketball side of things, where players are sort of realizing Duquesne's a good fit for them there on the women's side. Maybe we become that good fit on the men's side as well. And then we find a niche as a place where you're focused on your growth as a person and your professional growth beyond college. Might work out for us.
Yeah. Something else that Duquesne's got to be, of course, fully aware of at all times. And this is, and I'm going to borrow some reporting from Abby Schnabel from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who has the Duquesne beat. She wrote a nice article on post-gazette.com about how Duquesne is going to approach the world of college sports post the House of Representatives settlement. She quotes Dave Harper from the Duquesne Athletics Department, the director of athletics, is saying that Duquesne needs to be very lean and very efficient with how it runs its athletics department, because Duquesne is opting in to revenue sharing with its athletes. The Power Four conferences had no choice but to opt in. That was part of the settlement. But the mid majors, I guess, if you will, like Duquesne, who are Division I schools, but not in the SEC, ACC, Big 10, or Big 12, they can choose to opt in or opt out. Duquesne is opting in to revenue sharing with its athletes, but obviously we don't have the kind of pull that a lot of these Power Four conferences will, and revenue and money, right, to spend on to share with players. So Duquesne is committed to doing the best it can with what it has. Harper says it's got to be more than just the occasional person giving money, although that's obviously never going to be turned away, and we need all we can get to help us win. But there's got to be, you can't put this all on the shoulders of external supporters, is what Harper said. The quote is, you also have to be creative internally to make sure everything we do, as we always say in our business, I'm quoting him, if it doesn't get you a player, if it doesn't get you a win, or if it doesn't help you graduate another student athlete, then why are you spending? So you got to be very lean, very efficient in your operations. And so I do recommend you take a look at that article from Ms. Schnabel on post-gazette.com. Very, very interesting. And it's a big part of where college athletics is. Nick, did you have a chance to read that? I don't know if you should have
Yeah,
asked for the
I
show.
I did. And I mean, Zach also talked to Dave Harper about the decision to opt in. So I do want to give him credit on that as well.
Mhm.
Uh, they had the choice, but at the same time, it felt like they really didn't have a choice. I think basically every A10 program did essentially opt in. It felt like that was kind of a necessity, and the big question still is kind of, we talked about it earlier this year with the Title IX aspect with the schools sharing the funds. Is there going to have to be that equality? And that still hasn't been cleared up by the courts anywhere close to being true on whether men's football and basketball, whether it can be shared based off of revenue share as a whole. So if the sport makes more revenue, is it able to be allocated that way, or does it have to be split 50-50 amongst the genders? That's going to be a whole other thing. But yeah, Duquesne's in an interesting spot where they have to essentially play Moneyball, where the Oakland Athletics, Tampa Bay Rays, Pittsburgh Pirates of the MLB, where we're not going to have the same salary as the Dodgers or the Yankees, but we have to be smarter and try to find a way to compete.
A couple other notes before we close the show. Duquesne men's soccer schedule has been announced. So has women's soccer and women's volleyball. We try to highlight some of the Olympic sports as well. We'll do men's and women's soccer for this particular show. I want to mention that the Duquesne men's team opens up its season August 21st at home at Rooney Field with a Thursday matchup against Seton Hill. So lower division team, but it is an NCAA official game. That's a 4 p.m. kickoff. One of the local rivalry games will be August 24th, which is a Sunday at 5 p.m. also at Rooney Field against Robert Morris. So you can check that out at Rooney Field. It's free admission. Pretty cool. You can also watch them on ESPN Plus. The Duquesne men do not have a soccer team, do not have a game scheduled with Pitt this season so far. So that's obviously disappointing. Those are kind of fun. But that's not on the schedule as of now. Women's soccer is going to open up at Kent State, actually August 17th, 1 p.m. at Kent State. And the Duquesne women open at home on Rooney Field August 21st at 1 p.m. That's a Thursday against St. Francis of PA, 1 p.m. kickoff. Again, Rooney Field, free admission, or on ESPN Plus. And I want to give a shout out to the athletics department and the academic advisors in the athletics department, some of whom I'm going to call out by name here in a minute, for the latest, and really the whole athletics department, honestly, for the latest APR report. This is a release from the athletics department back from May 6th. Duquesne had 9 programs score a perfect 1,000 on what's called the annual progress report. And this, actually, it's a multi-year progress rate, but anyway, the APR is the initialism, academic progress rate, excuse me, what it's called. And so it's always from a year prior. And so based on the 23-24 academic year, 9 programs scored a 1,000. And in all, 14 Duquesne athletic programs scored 979 or better. So nobody fell below any mark that would cause penalties to be hit for the team, for that particular program. So this was something that the NCAA implemented way back in 2003. It was part of this effort to retain students, get them all the way through, and have them graduate. You get a little bit of a break when people transfer, but obviously it hurts more if a student falls behind academically. But Duquesne athletics in general has done a terrific job of maintaining their academics and scoring very high and making sure that none of the programs, at least by the latest report, are suffering any kind of negative consequences for falling behind academic progress rates. So a big shout out to Student Services, Shireen Brantley. She's a senior associate AD. Student Services and Development is a big part of her role. She's also the senior women's administrator at Duquesne. Again, this is really an entire athletics department accomplishment, but I do want to give a special shout out to Shireen for that work. So kudos to the athletics department, Shireen's staff, Bill Cluin, Carly Martin, Christina Shizurka, if I'm saying it correctly, Joshua Rocco, and Michelle Kleifkin. So shout out to that for the really strong APR report. Nick, any last words on anything Duquesne athletics, any of the sports before we sign off and go back to the blueprint for maybe getting another show going?
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Rick Christensen and Scart Bilek from the compliance office. I interned with them, and I know that they're also involved in the academic side of things and making sure that all the credits and everybody's on track to graduate. So I'm sure they played a role in that as well. As far as the summer goes, I mean, it's going to be tough to top this guest. I don't know if we're going to have a one as good as Megan McConnell, a Duquesne Hall of Famer, instant uh WNBA top of their profession sort of guest, but I guess that's on our to-do list now. Try to find somebody else.
I'm working on it. Yeah, yeah. That is a tough one. I was thrilled to get to talk to Meg. Such a fan, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And really awesome that she gave us her time. Because the demand to talk to Meg is high right now, and she made time for us. So it's pretty cool for me, you, for Rudy. And for Duquesne fans that she came and spoke to us on All Duke Sports Talk. Make sure, guys, please, that you're liking this video and you're subscribing, and that'll really help us get the word out about Duquesne athletics as much as possible and build our audience, and we can talk more and more Dukes. So subscribe, and also please share on social media, Twitter or X as you want to call it, Threads, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. Copy the YouTube link and email it to your grandma, whatever it takes. Please subscribe, and share, and we will get another show going. Hopefully this summer, if not close to when the academic year starts up in August and we get heavy into football season, and might be fun to talk about a huge upset at Acrisure. So we'll see. And for some of you guys out there whom I used to play with, I'll see you in the parking lot. So this has been Bob Healy for Nick Frost and Rudy Longarini out in California, our director and producer for this particular episode. That's it for tonight. Shoo shoo, rah rah, go Dukes.